Adam Murphy sat frozen on the couch, his heart hammering against his ribs as Eugene Jackson's question hung in the air between them like a bridge neither was ready to cross. The silence stretched impossibly long, filled only by the soft hum of the television they'd forgotten to turn off hours ago. Eugene's eyes searched Adam's face with an intensity that made Adam's breath catch. Those familiar brown eyes now holding something new, something that made the world tilt dangerously on its axis. Kushapa. Adam repeated the words slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. The question felt like a knife turning in his chest, not because it was painful, but because it was everything he'd dreamed of hearing, and everything he'd been terrified Eugene would never ask. Eugene shifted closer on the couch, close enough that Adam could feel the heat radiating from his skin, could catch the faint scent of his cologne mixed with something uniquely him. Quote one, Eugene's voice was softer now, vulnerable in a way Adam had never heard before. Have you ever thought about what it would be like if we were more than just friends? The weight of 2 years and 4 months of hidden longing pressed down on Adam's shoulders. 2 years and 4 months of listening to Eugene complain about girlfriends who didn't understand him, of being the shoulder Eugene cried on when relationships fell apart, of pretending his heart didn't break a little more each time Eugene asked for advice about some woman who would never love him the way Adam did. But to understand how they arrived at this moment, this precipice of possibility and terror, you would have to go back 3 months earlier, to a rainy Tuesday evening when everything began to shift. Adam had been grading papers at the kitchen table of their shared apartment, red pen moving mechanically across essays about the American Revolution, when Eugene burst through the front door like a hurricane of frustration and wet denim. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead from the rain, and his usually bright eyes were clouded with something Adam couldn't quite identify. Quote 3, Eugene announced without preamble, dropping his backpack by the door with a thud that echoed through their small living space. Adam's pen stilled against the paper. Sandra Ruiz had been Eugene's girlfriend for 6 months, the longest relationship Eugene had maintained since Adam had known him. She was beautiful in that effortless way that made Adam simultaneously envious and insecure, with long dark hair and a laugh that could light up entire rooms. Quote 4, Adam asked, setting down his pen and giving Eugene his full attention. Eugene ran his hands through his damp hair, a gesture Adam had memorized along with dozens of others. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Quote 20. The words hit Adam like a physical blow. How many times had he watched Eugene with his girlfriends, noticed the way Eugene's smile never quite reached his eyes, the way it did when they were alone together. Maybe she has a point, Adam said carefully, the words tasting dangerous on his tongue. Eugene looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Before we see how this ends, tell us where you're watching from and hype this video in the comments. This story is about to take you on an emotional journey you won't forget. Adam felt heat creep up his neck. I just mean, maybe you haven't found the right person yet. Maybe you're looking for something specific and you just haven't figured out what that is. Eugene stared at him for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his features. Then he crossed the kitchen and slumped into the chair across from Adam, close enough that their knees almost touched under the small table. What about you? Eugene asked suddenly. You haven't dated anyone seriously since we moved in together. Don't you get lonely? The question caught Adam off guard. The truth was, he did get lonely, but not in the way Eugene probably meant. Adam got lonely for conversations that lasted until 3 in the morning, for the way Eugene's face lit up when he talked about his photography, for the comfortable silence they shared during their Sunday morning coffee ritual. But at 12, Adam admitted, quote, Eugene's voice was soft, genuinely curious. Adam's heart raced. How could he explain that he was looking for someone who laughed at terrible movies the way Eugene did, who remembered how Adam liked his coffee and brought him soup when he was sick? Quote 15, Adam said finally. Quote 16, Eugene nodded slowly. Quote 17 and quote 18. The question hung between them like a challenge. Eugene was quiet for so long that Adam wondered if he'd pushed too far, crossed some invisible line that existed in their carefully maintained friendship. I don't know, Eugene said eventually. Maybe because I'm not sure who the real me is. That conversation had planted something between them, a seed of possibility that grew in the spaces between words. in the lingering glances and accidental touches that seemed to happen more frequently. Adam began to notice things he'd trained himself to ignore. The way Eugene's gaze would sometimes linger on Adam's mouth when he was talking, the way Eugene would find excuses to touch Adam's shoulder or brush their hands together when passing dishes at dinner. 3 weeks after the Sandra breakup, they'd been watching a movie on the couch, some romantic comedy that Eugene had picked despite Adam's protests. Adam had been trying to focus on the screen, but he was hyper-aware of Eugene's presence beside him, the way Eugene had gradually moved closer until their thighs were touching. Quote 20 while Eugene had muttered during a particularly cheesy scene, quote 1 and quote 20, and Adam asked, then immediately regretted the question when Eugene turned to look at him with those intense brown eyes. Quote, said, quote, Eugene was quiet for a moment, his gaze dropping to his hands. Quote, the words felt loaded with meaning, heavy with implication. Adam's heart hammered against his ribs as he tried to read Eugene's expression in the flickering light from the television. Adam said softly, quote, Eugene looked at him then, really looked at him, and Adam felt something shift in the air between them. For a moment, Adam thought Eugene might say something, might bridge the gap between what they were and what they could be. But then Eugene's phone buzzed with a text message, breaking the spell, and the moment passed like a ghost. But the moments kept coming, accumulating like storm clouds on the horizon. There was the night Eugene had a nightmare and ended up in Adam's bed, curled against Adam's side like it was the most natural thing in the world. There was the morning Adam had been sick with flu and woke up to find Eugene sitting in the chair beside his bed, having stayed up all night to make sure Adam's fever didn't spike. The turning point came on a Thursday evening in late October. Adam had been in his room, supposedly reading for his American history class, but actually staring at the same paragraph for 20 minutes while his mind wandered to the sound of Eugene moving around in the kitchen. Eugene appeared in Adam's doorway holding 2 mugs of coffee, prepared exactly the way Adam liked it without being asked. It was such a small gesture, but it made Adam's chest tight with longing. "Can I come in?" Eugene asked, though he was already stepping into the room. Adam nodded, closing his book and making room on the bed. Eugene handed him one of the mugs and settled beside him, close enough that Adam could feel the warmth of Eugene's thigh against his own. Quote 32, Eugene began, his voice careful and measured. Quote on, Adam's pulse quickened. "Yeah? I think maybe I do know what it is. I just haven't wanted to admit it to myself." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. Adam set his coffee mug on the nightstand with shaking hands, afraid he might drop it. "What is it?" Adam asked, though he wasn't sure he was ready for the answer. Eugene turned to face him fully, and Adam saw something in his expression that made his breath catch. It was vulnerability and fear and hope all tangled together. Quote 37, Eugene said quietly. Quote 38. Adam's heart stopped, then started again with the rhythm that felt too fast, too loud. "Eugene, I know this is crazy," Eugene continued, the words tumbling out like he was afraid he'd lose his nerve if he stopped. Quote bottom, Adam whispered. Eugene's hand found Adam's on the bedspread, fingers intertwining in a gesture that felt both familiar and entirely new. The words hit Adam like electricity, like every nerve ending in his body had suddenly come alive. He stared down at their joined hands, at the way Eugene's thumb was tracing gentle circles across his knuckles, and felt something inside him crack open. "I've wanted that for so long," Adam admitted, the words barely audible. "I've wanted you for so long." Eugene's breath caught. Quote 46. Adam looked up to meet Eugene's eyes, and what he saw there made his chest tight with hope and terror. 2 years and 4 months, and he said, "That's how long I've been in love with you." The confession hung between them like a bridge, waiting to see if Eugene would cross it or let it crumble. For a moment, Eugene just stared at him, and Adam felt panic rising in his throat. But then Eugene's free hand came up to cup Adam's face, thumb brushing across his cheekbone in a gesture so tender it made Adam's eyes flutter closed. Quote 49. Eugene repeated softly. Quote to 50. Quote. The words broke something open in Adam's chest, something that had been locked away for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe freely. He leaned into Eugene's touch, letting himself believe for the first time that this might be real. "I'm scared," Adam whispered. "Me too," Eugene admitted. "I've never felt this way about a guy before. I don't know what I'm doing." "Neither do I," Adam said. "But I know I don't want to keep pretending anymore." Eugene's thumb traced across Adam's lower lip, and Adam felt his breath hitch. "Can I kiss you?" Eugene asked, his voice so soft Adam almost didn't hear it. Adam nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Eugene leaned closer, slowly, giving Adam time to change his mind. But Adam didn't want distance anymore. He wanted to close every gap between them. When Eugene's lips touched his, it was soft and hesitant at first, a question being asked with the barest brush of contact. Adam answered by pressing closer, by letting his free hand tangle in Eugene's hair, by opening his mouth slightly in invitation. The kiss deepened, became more certain as initial hesitation melted away. Eugene tasted like coffee and possibility, like every daydream Adam had tried to suppress and every hope he'd been afraid to acknowledge. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Eugene rested his forehead against Adam's. "Wow," he whispered. "Yeah," Adam agreed, unable to form more coherent thoughts. "Wow." They stayed like that for a moment, foreheads touching, sharing the same air, trying to process what had just shifted between them. "What happens now?" Adam asked. Eugene's hand was still cupping his face, thumbs still tracing gentle patterns across his skin. He admitted, Adam said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. Quote 66, Eugene smiled then, the first real smile Adam had seen from him in weeks, and it was like watching the sun come out from behind clouds. Quote 67, Quote 60 didn't Adam said, leaning in to press another soft kiss to Eugene's lips. "We're really doing this." But figuring it out proved more complicated than either of them had anticipated. The next few weeks were a careful dance of discovery, of learning how to be with each other in this new way while still maintaining the friendship that had been the foundation of everything between them. There were moments of awkwardness, times when they'd reach for each other and then hesitate, unsure of the new boundaries they were creating. There were conversations that started and stopped, questions about what they were to each other. Eugene was patient with Adam's uncertainty about his own sexuality, never pushing for labels or definitions that Adam wasn't ready to give. And Adam was patient with Eugene's fear about what this meant for his sense of identity. They took things slowly, spending hours talking about everything and nothing, learning each other's bodies through gentle touches and soft kisses. Eugene would trace patterns on Adam's arms while they watched television, and Adam would run his fingers through Eugene's hair when Eugene fell asleep with his head in Adam's lap. The first time Eugene stayed in Adam's bed all night, they did nothing but hold each other and whisper confessions in the dark. Eugene told Adam about the dreams he'd been having, dreams where they were together in ways that made him wake up confused and longing. Adam told Eugene about the notebook where he'd been writing unsent letters, pages and pages of everything he'd wanted to say, but never dared. "You wrote me letters?" Eugene asked, his voice soft with wonder. "Dozens of them," Adam admitted, heat creeping up his neck. "Every time I thought I was going to lose my mind from wanting you so much." Eugene was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then he said, "Can I read them someday?" "Maybe," Adam said, though the thought of Eugene seeing all those raw, desperate words made his stomach flutter with anxiety. "I want to know all of you," Eugene said, pressing a kiss to Adam's temple. Quote 76. 3 weeks into their new relationship, Eugene's ex-girlfriend, Sandra, showed up at their apartment unannounced. Adam answered the door to find her standing in the hallway, looking beautiful and determined. "Is Eugene here?" she asked, and there was something in her tone that suggested she wasn't planning to take no for an answer. Adam called for Eugene, who appeared looking surprised and slightly panicked. She said, stepping into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. Quote 80. Adam felt like an intruder in his own home as Sandra and Eugene talked, her voice soft and persuasive as she explained how she'd realized she missed him, how she wanted to try again. Eugene's responses were careful and measured, but Adam could see the conflict in his eyes. Quote 81. Adam said finally, grabbing his jacket and heading for the door. He couldn't stand there and watch Sandra try to win Eugene back. Adam walked for hours, his mind spinning with doubt and fear. Maybe this thing between him and Eugene was just an experiment, a phase Eugene was going through before returning to the safety of heterosexual relationships. When he finally returned to the apartment, Sandra was gone, and Eugene was sitting on the couch looking devastated. "She's gone," Eugene said as soon as Adam walked in. "I can see that," Adam replied, trying to keep his voice neutral. "I told her about us," Eugene continued, and Adam's heart stopped. Otos 85. The words hit Adam like a physical blow, but in the best possible way. Relief flooded through him so intensely it made his knees weak. 186. Adam asked. Eugene nodded. 87. Adam crossed the room and sat beside Eugene on the couch, close enough to take Eugene's hands in his own. "How do you feel about that? About saying it out loud?" "Terrified," Eugene admitted, "but also relieved. Like I finally stopped lying to myself." Adam brought Eugene's hands to his lips, pressing soft kisses to his knuckles. To 91. Quote 92. Eugene said, surprising them both. Quote 93. That night they made love for the first time, slow and careful and full of whispered endearments. Eugene was nervous, his hands shaking as he touched Adam's skin, but there was wonder in his eyes, like he was discovering something he'd been searching for his entire life without knowing it. Adam had been with men before, but never like this, never with someone who mattered so much that every touch felt like a revelation. They took their time learning each other's bodies, building toward a crescendo that left them both breathless and clinging to each other in the aftermath. "I love you," Eugene whispered against Adam's neck as they lay tangled together in the darkness. "Quad," Adam murmured, running his fingers through Eugene's damp hair. "You were scared. We both were." "I'm not scared anymore," Eugene said, lifting his head to look at Adam. "Are you?" Adam considered the question. Was he scared? Yes, but not of Eugene, not of what they had together. He was scared of the outside world, of how people would react when they found out. But looking at Eugene, seeing the love and certainty in his eyes, Adam realized that those fears felt small compared to the possibility of losing this. "A little," Adam admitted, "but not of you, not of us." Eugene smiled and pressed a soft kiss to Adam's lips. Quote 100. The rest, as it turned out, was easier than either of them had expected. Adam's friends were surprised but supportive, and Eugene's family, while initially confused, came around quickly when they saw how happy Eugene was. Adam's parents took longer to adjust, but even they couldn't argue with the obvious contentment their son had found. 6 months later, they were still figuring things out, still learning how to navigate the world as a couple rather than as friends who happened to live together. But the uncertainty that had plagued both of them for so long had settled into something steadier, something that felt like coming home, which brought them back to this moment, to Eugene's question hanging in the air between them like a bridge they had already crossed but were still marveling at. Quote, 103, Adam repeated, his voice soft with memory and affection. Quote, 100. Eugene's smile was radiant, the same smile that had been making Adam's heart skip beats since the day they'd met. "What did you wonder about?" Adam shifted closer on the couch, close enough that their knees were touching. "I wondered what it would feel like to kiss you. I wondered if you'd ever look at me the way you look at me now. I wondered if you could love me the way I had loved you." "And now you know," Eugene said, his hand finding Adam's cheek. Adam agreed, leaning into the touch. Quote, Eugene was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing gentle patterns across Adam's skin. "I was watching you grade papers earlier, and you had this little frown of concentration, and I realized I've been watching you like that for months. Really watching you, memorizing the way you look when you think no one's paying attention." He paused, his gaze dropping to Adam's lips before meeting his eyes again. The words made Adam's chest tight with emotion, the same overwhelming love and gratitude he'd felt that first night when Eugene had kissed him and everything had changed. Quote 112, Adam said softly. Quote 100, Eugene replied, leaning in to press a gentle kiss to Adam's forehead. "I'm glad we both stopped being scared." Adam closed his eyes, savoring the warmth of Eugene's lips against his skin, the solid presence of Eugene's body beside him on the couch. 6 months ago, this would have been an impossible dream. Now it was just Tuesday evening, just another quiet moment in the life they'd built together. Quote 115. Adam said, opening his eyes to find Eugene watching him with that soft expression that still made Adam's heart race. Yeah, I love you too, in case I haven't said it enough today. Eugene's smile was answer enough, but he said it anyway. Quote 118. They stayed like that for a while, close together on the couch, sharing soft kisses and quiet conversation as the evening settled around them. The television had long since gone to sleep mode, leaving them in the gentle glow of the lamp beside the couch, creating a circle of warm light that felt like their own private world. Later, as they got ready for bed, Adam caught sight of himself in the bathroom mirror and was surprised by what he saw. He looked different somehow, lighter, like he'd been carrying a weight for so long that he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. Quote 119, Eugene asked, appearing in the doorway with his toothbrush in hand. Quote 20, Adam said. Quote Wickenmunch, Eugene stepped up behind him, wrapping his arms around Adam's waist and resting his chin on Adam's shoulder so they were both looking at their reflection. Adam said simply, quote 124. Eugene pressed a kiss to Adam's neck, and Adam watched in the mirror as his own eyes fluttered closed at the sensation. You were always allowed to be yourself, Eugene said softly. You just needed someone to see you. And you see me? I see you, Eugene confirmed, meeting Adam's eyes in the mirror. Quote 129. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything they'd been through together, every moment of doubt and fear and hope that had led them to this place. Adam turned in Eugene's arms, needing to see his face directly rather than in reflection. Adam said, Eugene's hands came up to cup Adam's face, thumbs brushing across his cheekbones in the gesture that had become so familiar and precious. Adam said, and meant it. Quote 35. Eugene replied, leaning in to kiss him softly. Quote here to show, as they settled into bed that night, Adam curled against Eugene's side with his head on Eugene's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. It was a sound that had become as comforting as home, a reminder that this was real, that Eugene was here and choosing to stay. Quote 37. Adam said into the darkness. Quote verse 38. Quote 39. Eugene's arm tightened around him. Sometimes, he admitted, I think about all the time we could have had together if I'd been braver sooner. But then I think about how perfect this feels now. And I wonder if we needed that time to become the people who could love each other the way we do. Adam considered this, tracing lazy patterns on Eugene's chest. Quote 142, quote 143. Eugene said, his voice heavy with approaching sleep. Quote 144. The rest of our lives. The words sent a warm thrill through Adam's chest. He'd never allowed himself to think in terms of forever when it came to Eugene. Had never dared to imagine a future where they could be together openly and honestly. But now the possibility stretched out before them, full of potential and promise. 3 months later, they were hosting their first dinner party as a couple. Their small apartment filled with friends and the warm smell of the lasagna Eugene had spent all afternoon perfecting. Adam watched from the kitchen doorway as Eugene told a story that had everyone laughing, his hands animated as he gestured, his face bright with joy. Sharon Davis, Adam's colleague from the history department, appeared beside him with a glass of wine. You look happy, she observed. I'm happy, Adam said, not taking his eyes off Eugene. It shows, Sharon said, both of you. You have that glow that new couples get. As if sensing their conversation, Eugene looked over and caught Adam's eye across the room. His smile softened, became something private and intimate, despite the crowd of people between them, and Adam felt that familiar flutter of love and gratitude. Later, after their guests had gone home and they'd finished cleaning up, they sat on their own couch in comfortable silence, Eugene's head in Adam's lap, while Adam ran his fingers through Eugene's hair. Quote partner, Eugene said sleepily. Quote woofty. Adam agreed. Quote what you want to Eugene tilted his head to look up at Adam. Quote what the question made Adam's heart skip. They talked about the future in vague terms, but they'd never put specific timelines on any of it. What else would I call you? Adam asked, though he thought he knew where this conversation was heading. Eugene sat up, turning to face Adam fully. I don't know, partner? Significant other? Future husband? The last phrase made Adam's breath catch. Quote 155 and some quote 156, Eugene said, and Adam could hear the nervousness beneath his casual tone. Quote 157. Adam felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Quote 158. Quote 159. Eugene said quickly. Quote 160. Adam leaned forward and kissed him softly, tasting the promise of forever on Eugene's lips. I love you, he said against Eugene's mouth. Quote Watituku. Eugene's smile was radiant. Yeah, Adam confirmed. I want to marry you someday. I want to build a life with you. I want everything. They made love that night with a new tenderness, a new sense of permanence that made every touch feel like a vow. Afterward, as they lay tangled together, Eugene traced patterns on Adam's chest and whispered plans for their future. Eugene said, quote 167, quote Washington, Adam replied. Quote Akaswine, quote one and just quote one as he quote one who's Adam said, pressing a kiss to the top of Eugene's head. I want it all. 6 months after that conversation, Eugene did propose, officially this time with a ring and a speech that made Adam cry happy tears in the middle of their favorite restaurant. They were married a year later in a small ceremony surrounded by family and friends. With vows they wrote themselves that spoke of patience and discovery and the courage to love authentically. Even now, 2 years into their marriage, Adam sometimes found himself marveling at the path that had brought them together. He thought about that night when Eugene had asked if Adam had ever wondered about them, about the fear and hope that had warred in his chest as he tried to find the courage to answer honestly. It was a Thursday evening much like that one, and they were on their couch again, Eugene grading his photography students' portfolios while Adam worked on his lesson plans for the next week. The domestic rhythm they'd found felt as natural as breathing now, but Adam still felt a little thrill when Eugene looked up and smiled at him. Quote 174, Eugene asked, setting aside his grading to give Adam his full attention. Quote 175, Adam said. Quote Winterstein. Eugene's smile turned soft and nostalgic. I was so nervous. I thought for sure you were going to tell me I was crazy. I thought for sure you were going to take it back, Adam admitted. Never, Eugene said firmly. Even when I was scared out of my mind, I knew what I felt for you was real. Adam closed his laptop and moved closer to Eugene on the couch, settling into the familiar comfort of Eugene's arms. Quote 181, quote 100, Eugene replied, pressing a kiss to Adam's temple. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set through their living room window, painting their small apartment in shades of gold and amber. Adam thought about all the moments that had led them here, all the small choices and brave conversations that had built the foundation of their life together. Eugene, Adam said eventually. Yeah? Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't asked? If we'd just kept being friends and pretending we didn't feel anything more? Eugene considered the question seriously. Sometimes, but then I think about how miserable we both were, how much energy we were spending on hiding from each other, and I can't imagine we could have kept it up forever. You think we would have figured it out eventually? I think you would have figured it out, Eugene said. You were always braver than me, even when you didn't think you were. Adam laughed softly. I was terrified every single day. But you stayed, Eugene pointed out. You could have moved out, put distance between us, protected yourself from the pain of wanting something you thought you couldn't have. But you stayed. I couldn't leave, Adam said simply. Even when it hurt, being near you was better than being anywhere else. Eugene's arms tightened around him. It wanted to get Finarkuda, Adam said, tilting his head to look at Eugene. Quote 197. Eugene smiled and leaned down to kiss him, soft and sweet and full of the easy affection that had replaced the desperate longing of their early days together. It was a different kind of love now, steadier and more secure, but no less precious for its familiarity. Hotown, Eugene said against Adam's lips. Me too, Adam replied. I love everything we've built together. Even the fights about whose turn it is to do dishes? Adam laughed. Especially the fights about dishes. It means we're real. We're normal people who happen to love each other enough to argue about mundane things. We are pretty normal, aren't we? Eugene mused. For two people who took 4 years to admit they were in love with each other. Speak for yourself, Adam said. Admitted it after 2 years and 4 months. Okay, for one person who took 4 years and one person who spent 2 years and 4 months pining in silence. I wasn't pining, Adam protested, though his smile gave him away. You were absolutely pining, Eugene said, grinning. You wrote me letters, Adam, dozens of them. That's the definition of pining. Adam felt heat creep up his neck. Eugene had eventually read some of those letters, and while Eugene had been touched by the depth of emotion they revealed, he'd also teased Adam mercilessly about the more dramatic passages. Put 211, Adam said. Or 2 Eugene reminded him. Quoted Torton. Eugene said, but his tone was fond rather than mocking. Quoted Bosks. Adam hit his face against Eugene's shoulder, embarrassed but pleased. I can't believe you remember that line. I remember all of them, Eugene said softly. I have them memorized. Sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I think about the way you wrote about loving me, and it makes everything better. The sincerity in Eugene's voice made Adam lift his head to look at him. Quote 20, Eugene confirmed. Quote 20. Adam felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. Even after all this time, Eugene could still surprise him with moments of unexpected tenderness. Quote to introduce Adam said, because it was the only response that felt adequate. Eugene replied, settling them both more comfortably on the couch. They spent the rest of the evening like that, curled together on their couch, talking about everything and nothing, sharing the kind of easy intimacy that Adam had dreamed of for so long, it had started to feel impossible. But here they were, living the life Adam had written about in all those unsent letters. As they got ready for bed that night, Adam caught sight of their wedding photo on the dresser, the one where they were both laughing at something Eugene's little sister had said during the ceremony. They looked so happy in the picture, so completely at ease with each other. Do you ever miss it? Adam asked as they brushed their teeth side by side at the bathroom sink. Miss what? Eugene asked around his toothbrush. The beginning, the uncertainty and the excitement of not knowing what was going to happen next. Eugene rinsed his mouth and considered the question. Sometimes, he admitted. There was something thrilling about those first few weeks, but I like this better. This? Knowing, Rishi, Eugene said simply. Knowing that you're going to be here tomorrow and next week and next year. The excitement is different now, but it's not gone. Adam nodded, understanding exactly what Eugene meant. The desperate uncertainty of their early relationship had been replaced by something steadier, but no less meaningful. Besides, Eugene added, wrapping his arms around Adam from behind as they looked at their reflection in the bathroom mirror, we still have plenty of firsts ahead of us. Like what? Like buying our first house, having kids maybe, if we decide we want them, growing old together. Adam leaned back against Eugene's chest, savoring the solid warmth of his husband's body. I like the sound of that. Me too, Eugene said, pressing a kiss to Adam's neck. Chapter 239. As they settled into bed that night, Adam thought about the question Eugene had asked all those months ago, the question that had changed everything between them. Have you ever wondered about us? It seemed almost quaint now, that careful inquiry that had felt so loaded with risk and possibility. Now Adam wondered about different things. He wondered what their children might look like, if they decided to adopt. He wondered what kind of old men they would be, whether Eugene would still make him when they were 70 and gray. But mostly Adam didn't wonder anymore. Mostly he knew. He knew that Eugene loved him completely and permanently. He knew that they had built something strong enough to weather whatever challenges came their way. He knew that the scared, lonely man who had spent 2 years and 4 months hiding his feelings was gone, replaced by someone who had learned to love openly and be loved in return. Eugene, Adam whispered into the darkness. Thank you for asking. Eugene's arm tightened around him. Quote 243. And in the quiet of their bedroom, surrounded by the life they had built together, Adam finally understood what it meant to be completely, utterly home. The next morning dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through their bedroom curtains in a way that made Eugene's hair look golden where it spread across his pillow. Adam woke first, as he usually did, and took a moment to study his husband's sleeping face, still marveling at the fact that he was allowed to do this. Eugene stirred under his scrutiny, eyes fluttering open to meet Adam's gaze. Morning, he mumbled, voice rough with sleep. Good morning, Adam replied, leaning over to press a soft kiss to Eugene's forehead. Quote to Adam, quote to us, Eugene said, stretching and yawning. Quote to Adam glanced at the clock on his nightstand. Quote 29, Eugene smiled, the slow, sleepy smile that Adam had fallen in love with years ago. Quote Tatu. They had developed a morning routine over the years, a comfortable dance of shared bathroom time and coffee preparation and stolen kisses in the kitchen. This morning was no different, except that as Adam sat across from Eugene at the table, watching him read the news on his phone while sipping his coffee, he felt a particular surge of contentment. Quote 251. Eugene asked, noticing Adam's stare. Nothing, Adam said. Just thinking about how lucky we are. Eugene set down his phone and reached across the table to take Adam's hand. Quote 254. Adam intertwined their fingers, marveling at how perfectly their hands fit together. Quote 255. Quote 256. Eugene said. Quote 257. Quote 258. Adam teased. Eugene grinning. Quote 255. Quote 260. Adam said. Quote 261. Eugene had agreed, bringing Adam's hand to his lips to press a kiss to his knuckles, but mostly the romantic thing. They finished their coffee in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts as they prepared mentally for the day ahead. As they gathered their things to leave for work, Eugene caught Adam at the front door, pulling him close for a proper goodbye kiss. I love you, Eugene said against Adam's lips. Shotadu 64. Quote Tavston, Adam all replied. Quote Tavston, it was such an ordinary moment, the kind of brief exchange that happened between couples thousands of times over the course of a relationship. But as Adam walked to campus, he found himself thinking about all the mornings when he dreamed of exactly this kind of mundane domesticity with Eugene. That evening, they settled into their familiar routine of dinner and conversation, sharing the details of their respective days with the easy intimacy of people who had learned to find joy in the ordinary moments of shared life. Tell me about your classes today, Eugene said, curling up against Adam's side on the couch. Adam told him about his discussion of the civil rights movement, about a student's thoughtful question that had made him think about their own journey toward authenticity. Eugene listened with the focused attention he always gave to Adam's stories. Quote Tab 68, Adam said. Quote Tau 269, Eugene nodded thoughtfully. Quote Tau 227, he said. Quote Sound, Eugene agreed. Quote Dewar, they talked until late, their conversation ranging from the profound to the mundane. It was the kind of wide-ranging discussion that had characterized their relationship from the beginning, the easy intellectual and emotional intimacy that had been the foundation of their friendship and remained the bedrock of their marriage. As they prepared for bed, Adam found himself thinking about the cyclical nature of their days, the way each morning brought the possibility of new experiences, while each evening returned them to the comfort and safety of their shared life. Quote 274, Eugene said as they settled into bed, his voice soft in the darkness. Quote 7 and a quote to Adam turned to face Eugene in the darkness. Quote Shvanish, a quote Ananda, Eugene said without hesitation. Quote Ayan, quote Taujid, Adam added. Quote Tar, Eugene said. Adam reached out to touch Eugene's face, his thumb tracing the familiar contours of his husband's cheek. Quote Tara, Eugene caught Adam's hand and pressed it more firmly against his face. I hope so. I hope we never stop being curious about each other. I don't think that's possible, Adam said. You still surprise me all the time. Eugene was quiet for a moment. You are precious, he said finally. You're the most important thing in my life. The words made Adam's chest tight with emotion. Even after all this time, Eugene could still make him feel seen and valued in ways that took his breath away. Quote to Adam whispered, leaning in to kiss Eugene softly. Quote to 291. Eugene replied against his lips. Quote 292. As Adam drifted toward sleep, he thought about the question that had started it all, the simple inquiry that had changed the trajectory of both their lives. Have you ever wondered about us? It seemed almost mundane now, that careful exploration of possibility that had felt so momentous at the time. But maybe that was the point. Maybe the most important moments in life were often the quiet ones, the simple questions asked in the safety of familiar spaces, the small acts of courage that opened doors to entirely new ways of being in the world. The next few months passed in a blur of ordinary happiness. They took their first real vacation together, a week in Italy that felt like a second honeymoon. But it was the small moments that Adam treasured most. Sunday morning breakfasts, impromptu dance sessions in their living room, the comfortable silence they could share while reading. One evening in late spring, as they sat on their small balcony watching the sun set over the city, Eugene brought up a conversation they had been dancing around for months. "I've been thinking about what we talked about," he said, his fingers intertwined with Adam's. Code 294. Adam's heart skipped. And? And I think I do. Want kids, I mean. With you. Eugene's voice was haunted but certain. Quote to 297. Adam felt a smile spread across his face. Quote 298. Quote 299. Eugene asked. Quote to 300 pound. Adam said, squeezing Eugene's hand. It's scary, but good scary. Like when you asked if I'd ever wondered about us, Eugene laughed. Everything good in our lives has started with being scared and doing it anyway. They spent the rest of the evening talking about practicalities and possibilities, about adoption and all the ways modern families could be formed. It was a conversation that would continue for months, but sitting there on their balcony, Adam felt the same sense of rightness he'd experienced that first night when Eugene had kissed him and everything had changed. A year later, they were approved for adoption and placed on a waiting list. The uncertainty was difficult, but it also gave them time to prepare to transform their spare room into a nursery and to have long conversations about the kind of parents they wanted to be. Quote 3-3. Adam said one evening as they painted the nursery walls. Quote 3 for our mom. Quote Pravdu, Eugene added. Quote Thrushel Renaissance, Adam said. Quote 7. Eugene set down his brush and crossed the room to wrap his arms around Adam from behind. Quote 308, he said with quiet confidence. The call came on a Tuesday morning in October, almost exactly 5 years after that first conversation about wondering about each other. Adam was grading papers when his phone rang. Quote 309, the voice asked. Quote 310, fallen. Quote 311. Adam's hands shook as he wrote down the details. A baby girl born 3 days ago. They could meet her tomorrow if they were ready. We're ready, Adam said without hesitation. We've been ready. Eugene emerged from his dark room to find Adam sitting at the kitchen table, tears streaming down his face. What's wrong? Eugene asked, immediately moving to Adam's side. Quote 3-1 fam. Adam said, his voice thick with emotion. Quote 3-6. Eugene's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, understanding, joy, and finally a wonder so profound it took Adam's breath away. Quote 3-1-7. Eugene repeated. Quote 3-1-8. Adam confirmed. Quote 3-9. The next morning they drove to the hospital with hands clasped tightly together. When they were finally led into the room where their daughter was waiting, Adam felt his heart stop at the sight of the tiny, perfect baby sleeping peacefully in her bassinet. Quote 3-1. Eugene whispered, his voice filled with awe. Quote 3-21. Adam said, reaching out to gently touch Emma's tiny hand. As if she could sense his presence, the baby's fingers curled around his, and Adam felt something click into place in his chest, a love so immediate and overwhelming it made him dizzy. As Emma grew from a tiny infant into a curious, laughing baby, Adam and Eugene settled into their new roles as parents with the same patience and dedication they had brought to building their relationship. They took turns with night feedings, shared the ghost of Emma's worst smile, documented every milestone. Quote 3-22. Eugene said one evening as they sat together on the couch, Emma sleeping peacefully in Adam's arms. She has your stubborn streak, Adam replied, thinking of their epic battle over Emma's refusal to take her afternoon nap. Quote 3-24. Eugene said simply, reaching out to stroke Emma's soft hair. Absolutely perfect. Adam looked at his husband, at the wonder and love in his expression as he gazed at their daughter, and felt that familiar flutter of gratitude. This life they'd built together, this family they'd created through courage and patience and endless love, was more beautiful than anything he'd dared to imagine. Quote 3-26, Adam said softly. Quote 3-27, quote, Eugene smiled, the same radiant smile that had been making Adam's heart skip beats for years. Thank you for answering, for being brave enough to tell me the truth. They sat in comfortable silence, watching their daughter sleep, marveling at the perfect trust with which she rested in their arms. Outside, the city hummed with its usual evening rhythms, but inside their small apartment, time seemed suspended. Do you think she'll ask about it on someday? Eugene asked quietly. About how we got together? How we became a family? Probably, Adam said. Kids are curious about their parents' love stories. What will we tell her? Adam considered the question. We'll tell her that sometimes the most important questions are the ones we're afraid to ask. We'll tell her that love requires courage, but that courage is always worth it when it leads you to the people who are meant to be your family. Eugene nodded, his hand finding Adam's free one and squeezing gently. Quote 3038. As Emma grew into a toddler, then a preschooler, Adam and Eugene found themselves navigating the particular joys and challenges of raising a curious, energetic child while maintaining their own relationship. There were moments of pure magic, Emma's delighted laughter, her serious concentration as Adam read her stories, the way she would curl up between them on Sunday mornings and announce that this was her favorite place in the whole world. Daddy Adam, Daddy Eugene, she said one evening as they tucked her into bed, her 3-year-old voice serious. How did you know you wanted to be my daddies? Adam and Eugene exchanged a look over her head, both of them smiling at the earnestness of her inquiry. Well, Adam said, settling on the edge of her bed, we knew we wanted to be a family, and families are made of people who love each other very much. When we heard about you, we knew right away that you were the missing piece we'd been waiting for. Like a puzzle? Emma asked, her eyes bright with understanding. Exactly like a puzzle, Eugene confirmed. We were a family of 2, but we had a Emma-shaped space that only you could fill. And now we're a complete puzzle? Now we're a complete puzzle, Adam agreed, leaning down to kiss her forehead. The most beautiful puzzle in the world. As they settled into bed that night, Adam thought about the circular nature of their story, how it had begun with a question and continued to unfold through their willingness to keep asking questions of each other and of themselves. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and joys. Emma would continue to grow and change, and they would keep learning how to be the best partners and parents they could be. But tonight, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, Adam felt nothing but gratitude for the journey that had brought them here. 7 years ago, Eugene had asked if Adam had ever wondered about them, and that simple question had opened the door to a life more beautiful than either of them had dared to imagine. Eugene? Adam whispered into the darkness. Yeah? I'm still wondering about us, about what comes next, what we'll discover about each other as we keep growing together. Eugene's arm tightened around him. Quote 353, he said softly. Quote 354. Quote 355, Adam said, the words carrying the weight of 7 years of shared history and the promise of all the years yet to come. Quote 356, Eugene replied. Quote 357. And in the quiet of their bedroom, surrounded by the life they had built through courage and patience, and the willingness to believe that love was always worth the risk, Adam finally understood that some questions don't need answers. They need to be lived. The question of what they meant to each other would continue to unfold for the rest of their lives, each day bringing new discoveries and deeper understanding. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories are the ones that begin with a single question, asked in the safety of friendship and answered with the courage to imagine something more. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, that question opens the door to a lifetime of wondering together. Adam and Eugene had been lucky enough to find each other, brave enough to take the risk, and wise enough to keep choosing each other every day since. Their story would continue to unfold, but it would always begin with that moment when Eugene looked at Adam and asked the question that changed everything. Have you ever wondered about us? The answer, as it turned out, was always yes.